Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our panel on success factors for emerging farmers, paths for a sustainable land management. We hope you've been having an excellent time at the GFFA Economic Forum so far. And I send you a particular good morning today from Douala, where it is sunny and about 32 degrees. So if you are cold somewhere, we are sending you a lot of warm energy. Just to tell you a little bit about our panel this morning, we are going to be structured in a way where you will hear in the beginning from each speaker. Then we will have a panel discussion amongst the speakers and where we will be able to take your questions from the chat. So please, throughout the discussion, feel free to put your questions and comments into the chat, and we'll be able to pick them up during that panel discussion. After the panel discussion, we'll have some closing remarks from each speaker, and then you will again have the opportunity to go into a deep dive with each speaker individually now to ask more questions. So we're going to have great opportunity to hear from each speaker and for you to ask your specific questions. So are these speakers? We have a wonderful panel crossing the world. So from Zambia, Ms. Grenda Mweemba is going to join us. She is with the German Agricultural Knowledge and Training Center, where she is a training coordinator. The Agriculture Knowledge and Training Center in Zambia is working in bilateral cooperation between the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture from Germany and the Ministry of Agriculture from Zambia. The institution supports building resource-saving agriculture and food industry through training for farmers. And Grenda is going to tell us a little bit more about that when we get started. From Ghana, originally from Ghana, even though I understand he is making the sacrifice to join us from the United States today, is Kamal Dean. Kamal is a social entrepreneur. He has over 11 years experience in corporate accounting and marketing. And he is the founder of Farmable Me, a crowdfunding platform for smallholder cattle farmers in Ghana. I'm sure that the cattle farmers are very grateful to have such a service. And most importantly, he is CEO of Trotro Tractor Limited. This is an agriculture technology company that connects smallholder farmers with tractors and other farm machinery using feature phones and smartphones. Kamal is going to tell us a little bit more about what he does during this session. And we have Mr. Christian Radons, who is a board member of the Claas group in Germany. He has served in various positions over the last 22 years at Claas Group, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what Claas does and how it works with emerging farmers. Our session is going to be focused on soil. Soil is the backbone of agriculture, and farmers throughout the world have been using production measures that ensure long-term soil fertility. However, today, if this knowledge over history is not conserved and is not available, if we don't have new knowledge, new technologies that are available for farmers to be able to ensure soil fertility, then we may be in trouble. So during our panel, we will focus on sub-Saharan Africa's agriculture and look at how emerging farmers, that is farmers who are going towards market orientation, can ensure long-term soil fertility. And I am going to start straight off with Grenda. Grenda, Grenda, could you tell us what are some of the key challenges that the farmers that you work with are facing?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that question, Ka, and a good morning to all the viewers that are following us from wherever you are. And it's a good morning here in Zambia. The sky is all covered with the clouds. So answering your question, Madam Ka, I'll start with giving you at least a picture of the emergent farmers that we're working with in Zambia. Maybe for those that may not really know, emergent farmers are covering a large population of farmers amongst the farmer groups in Zambia. So, and apart from that, we have most of them that have only acquired up to basic education, and a small number of them have, of course, acquired secondary education, and a very little number of them have gone up to tertiary level. So following that background, this is just the perspective of the farmers that we're working with here in Zambia, among the emergent farmers. So following that background, you find that most of them haven't really had that modern education in terms of agriculture. So they've learned their way of farming from their great-grandfathers, their mothers, who have also learned from their great-great-parents. So you find that most of the activities that they are still doing now are still old ways of farming. And then, so the number one challenge that I'm going to point at is resistance to change, because you find that these farmers are comfortable with the way they are doing their ways of farming. So if, say, they are doing their land preparation by disking, and even if we give them that knowledge, you find that there's always that resistance for them to change to a better practice. Yeah, so that's number one challenge that I have pointed out. And the next one, we are looking at the training institutions that are available in Zambia. So number one, there are these institutions like AKTC. The AKTC, what we are doing to these farmers, we are training these farmers, we are giving them short courses on how to become more or better practices, to adapt to better practices with regards to soil management and with regards to conservation in agriculture. So you find that the centers are a little bit stretched, and then there are only a few centers that speak to the needs of these farmers. So I'll just give you a practical example. We are centrally located, of course, we are in the central region of Zambia, but then Zambia has got about 10 provinces, and then these farmers are stretched out in all these provinces. And for the centers that I know so far, I'm currently actually doing a research on the centers that are providing agriculture-related knowledge to these farmers. You find that there are only about less than 10 centers that are working to at least disseminate the information that is required to teach the farmers on the new modern practices that will enhance even their soil health and that will speak for the environment. And then the other problem that, or the challenge that we are facing, or they are facing out there, which is the last on my list, but not the least, it's to do with agriculture equipment acquisition. Most of these farmers do not have the capacity to own equipment that will help them, say, cultivate the land in a manner that is required for us to conserve the soil. So most of these equipment that they are using right now are the old equipment, the plow, which is disturbing the soil so much. And then these farmers do not have access to the better equipment, the direct seeders, the planters, or the reapers. We only have got about a small population of farmers that have the proper equipment, that could do better for the soil and for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Grenda. So farmers have some resistance to change. Training institutions and sessions are limited, and equipment is also difficult for farmers to access. Yes. I would ask you, what are you seeing as the impact of climate change on the soil, on soil management in Zambia? And unfortunately, because we lost a few minutes there, I'm going to ask you to keep it short and sweet. Okay. What are you seeing in terms of climate change?
Okay, so number one factor that is that we have seen as a drawback that has been made due to climate change is number one, extinction of microorganisms in the soil. So you find that the soil is lacking that nutrient that the plant requires for it to develop fully. And then the other one is to do with, of course, soil erosion, which is both affected by direct heating on the soil and also maybe the floods, because of late we've had too much rains that are washing away the soil. And then the moisture also, the moisture content, obviously, it reduces. There's that reduction of moisture content in the soil. And also, I think the loss of organic carbon in the soil. Those are some of the effects that have been availed by the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grenda. And I'm going to just ask a final question. The local know-how on soil fertility, what farmers had been using historically before they had training sessions and so on, is this known, and is it preserved somewhere, and is it perhaps integrated into your training? Just a quick answer on that before we move.
May I ask that you repeat the question? I didn't get it clearly.
Yes, the regional knowledge, the traditional knowledge, because farmers, they conserve soil traditionally. So the knowledge that they have, is that preserved somewhere in Zambia? Is it integrated into your trainings? What is happening to that historical knowledge?
Oh yeah, yes. With regards to that one, I think with the interactions that I have had with the farmers that I have so far visited in their farms, there are those that are still practicing good practices that has to do with preserving of the soil. And this is actually being integrated in what we are offering at AKTC right now, because we have to start building from what they already know, so that at least whatever that we are bringing on board for them, they are able to relate with what they already know, and we're just like topping up
what they know
on what is supposed to be done. And then also, yes, and then also answering your question, yeah, there are other organizations that I know that are really working closely with the farmers in trying to promote the good practices, the old good practices that we're doing. Yeah, and so far, at least they're doing better in that area. Yes, I just hope that we are not really going to lose that knowledge completely. Thank you.
Great. Good to know. So let me move to Kamal. Kamal Yakuba, welcome. Thank you for joining the panel. Building on the discussion we just had with Grenda, as somebody who's working with farmers providing tractors, What are you seeing as challenges from the farmers that you work with? Is it similar in terms of resistance to change, difficulty of access to training, and you are working directly on providing equipment. So what are some of the challenges you encounter with regard to soil management?
Right. Thank you very much, Ka, and good morning to all participants joining us today, and most especially our panelists. Yes, that's a great question. And the challenges that we face with farmers, you cannot do without seeing what Grenda just mentioned in Ghana. So the characteristics of the farmers in Ghana and the other countries that we work in are similar to what is happening in Zambia. And just to give Grenda an idea, we are coming to Zambia very soon, so expect Trotro Tractor services in Zambia. But resistance to change is something we are facing with farmers, but not in the way Grenda puts it. So, for example, you have a farmer or a farmer group requesting for mechanization services. And what they normally know about mechanization services has to do with the traditional plow, non-conservation agriculture. And so if you are introducing climate smart agricultural practices, farmers would initially resist and not go by the new implement or the new services that you are bringing on board to, one, save the moisture content, two, conserve energy use, and also improve yields. So because they haven't done that before, that becomes expensive. And you have to sensitize them, or sometimes even do what we call the model farms. So if you have, say, 500 farmers in one community, you choose 10 farmers and then you do a model farm with with proper mechanization services. Just to go back on that, Grenda mentioned something that is very, very important. That is training the mechanization service provided. So whatever she says is very true, but to the mechanization industry. So for example, you have a tractor or a farm machinery operator. I'm very happy Claas is here. And then you have this machine that is very, very expensive, and there is no space provided for them to learn the skill of utilizing such a machinery. So they follow someone who at one point in time is happy with them and say, now you can go and use the tractor as a mechanization service provider. Versus what we know in even cars in the cities. Before you get your driver's license, you go through rudimentary processes to get your driver's license to be on the field. But that is not the case with tractor operators and farm machinery operators. So you would find that even getting the tractor operators to be trained in most cases, even at no fee, becomes so difficult. And then when you train these tractor operators, it's also difficult for them to explain to their farmers, those receiving the services, on the importance of the new training that they have acquired on the field. So these challenges normally persist on the ground. Now, the major challenge that I can mention also is, so we provide services to farmers just like how other ride-hailing apps do. Like, for example, Uber, Lyft in the cities, we do that to the to the farmers. And so the adoption to technology by farmers to accept the fact that they can just take their phones and dial some short codes and be in their houses or their farms and then expect a tractor in a few days to clear their land is also another major challenge for them to adopt, especially when everything is being recorded digitally. So a farmer has to pay via mobile platform through their mobile money to get access to farm machinery services. Now, if that is the first time it is being done in their village, it is difficult for a farmer to grasp the fact that what if I pay and nobody comes to do the work for me? What is going to happen? So that process of getting farmers to adopt this new change still persists. But yeah, we keep pushing on the ground to get this happen.
Great. Thank you so much, Kamal, for a great description of what you're already providing as a solution, which is definitely seems to be addressing one of the key needs, but the very, very practical challenges in delivering that. One is that farmers are like the rest of us, adopting new technology, adopting new ways of doing things is always challenging. But two, also that trust environment for the farmer to send their money and to have the guarantee that the service will actually come. I will get back to you, Kamal, as we go into the panel session. I would like to give Claas the opportunity as well to say a few words before we move to the panel. Claas, could you tell us a little bit what is a big, huge multinational company like sorry, I'm calling you by your company name, Christian. Christian, could you tell us a little bit what Claas is doing to contribute to development of agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa, and specifically to soil management? Christian?
Yeah, thanks first of all, thank you for inviting us to this great panel. And I have to say it's a pleasure and it's an honor. I take it as an honor to talk after Naomi and Kamal, which have been providing great insights already. So Claas, you might know only a few words on it. We are a multinational company, family-owned, Germany-based. And we are doing business more than 108 years now, so quite traditional, I would say also quite sustainable company. When it comes to Africa, we also have a long-lasting history in Africa. We are doing business in almost all countries. We have started that many decades ago. And we have great products which are known and are a name for itself in Africa. For instance, the Great Dominator, but this is not limited to that. Basically, we offer the full fleet of our products and innovations to Africa. And it's not only us. It's always worth to mention we have great partners, importers and dealers who are really partners to the farmers, and this is also the key of success, not for us, but this is the key of success for the farmers. When it comes to soil, and so we were really pleased to get the invitation to talk also a little bit about this topic that comes directly to sustainability issues, and to protect the soil is something we have in our DNA, in our products, incorporated also since decades, and we have award-winning innovations to really support farmers in doing that. And last but not least, I would like to mention, I personally have a great heart for Africa, and we have supported, and I have seen tremendous results in GSA agency program called Farming by Satellite, where Claas is a long history sponsor for the African prize, and I had the pleasure in the past many times to be in the jury and to hand over the prize. And what I have seen from students all over in Africa as results of their work has been impressive and is by no means different to what you see in, for instance, European universities. So you see we have a strong focus. Every customer counts, every customer is important, and of course that is also true for agriculture in Africa.
Great.
When it
Thank
comes,
you.
yes, please.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you for those introductory remarks. And since we are running a little bit behind time, and all of you have brought up some really interesting and interconnected points, I suggest we move straight away to the panel. And I'm going to ask you all to address a little bit the question you have brought up, which is very clearly farmers need new equipment to be able to address these challenges in soil management. Some solutions are there, such as what Trotro is offering. What needs to happen? What needs to begin to happen to make equipment more accessible to farmers and to enable farmers to adopt the technology they need for better soil management? So that question is going to go to all three of you. And Grenda, let me start with you back to hear what do you think needs to happen for farmers to better access this kind of equipment and technology?
Okay, thank you so much, Ka, for that question. To start with, like I mentioned, most of these farmers that we're working with, the emergent farmers in Zambia, what they are lacking is that the finances to have access to the better equipment that suit their need. And then with the challenges so far that I have observed, especially with the producing companies, their major target, they are producing equipment that usually are targeting the commercial farmers. And then you find that someone who is just trying to develop, like an emerging farmer, is unable to buy that equipment because obviously it's too expensive for them to afford. So this goes maybe to the producing companies out there, at least to make equipment that is easily accessible even to the emergent farmer. Something that a farmer can be able to have or to own and be able to use on their farm without any challenges when it comes to finances. They're able to pay for it perfectly, and then they are also able to use it perfectly well on their ground in their different farms. Yes, thank you so much.
What needs to happen further to get equipment to farm?
Right. Thank you so much. So what we do in such situation is working with group of farmers. So when you group farmers, for example, if you group 150 farmers, they can access and afford an expensive tractor in the farming season. And so if one tractor or one service provider has been assigned to 150 farmers, and each farmer is doing on the average, say 3 hectares, that gives you about 450 hectares. So this tractor would be put in constant use. But by the use of technology, we are able to aggregate and schedule the farmers. So before the farming season, if all these farmers use their mobile phones to request and register and pay in advance sometimes for these tractor services, we can assign about 150 farmers to one particular tractor during the farming season, or anything that allows the tractor to be active.
Thank you, Kamal. I think we lost him there at the end, but we got the essence of what he's saying, working with farmers in groups, enabling farmers to pool their resources is a key element. Kamal is proposing the working with farmers in groups, in associations, in cooperatives, and so on. Is this something that is viable for you on the ground? Does this look like something that could work? Are you already working in this?
This is something that we are also trying to do back here in Zambia. I think that should be late last year, around November. We did some sort of a needs assessment to just also find out whether farmers are willing to work in groups and maybe perhaps access equipment as a group that they will be able to use in the various places. So the outcome from the questionnaire was quite positive. Most of these farmers that we followed actually are willing to come up in groups and at least outsource an equipment that they will be able to use. And so we are just now looking forward just to follow up on them again and whether this really is viable and if it's something that they can already manage. But at least from what we have gotten so far, the willingness from these farmers is there. Yeah, the willingness from these farmers is already there. And maybe just what we need now is just to engage other players to come on board and see how this can perfectly work for them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Grenda. Christian and Kamal are back. Great. Christian, let me go to you. Yes. Sorry about that. Sorry about the technical troubles. So we wanted to hear from you about making equipment more accessible to emerging farmers. Is this something you are working on? And is there something you need as a big company on the part of either farmers or maybe public institutions?
Yeah, a lot has been said regarding finance and enablement of farmers. And I think we also have to look at political framework to enable farmers to buy machines. I would strongly underline that the use of agriculture machinery from smaller machines, cheaper machines to highly professional machines is one important pillar, or how we see it, for improving agriculture. That has been shown everywhere in the world, and is also true for Africa. So definitely access to finance, but also providing a proper income for farmers is an important pillar. And what I liked in the beginning of the session, there was a lot be said about knowledge of farmers, historic knowledge, which is given to the generation and the next generation again. That is something we take as a starting point always. We call it the local heroes. We can only support. And what I see very positively is that the African farmers are much more modern than people might think when it comes to using let's say, interesting finance schemes, but also in terms of digitalization, which is another pillar and gives us a lot of opportunities to find flexible ways in providing those machines. for instance, with flexible leasing and these kind of things. And that is all paying into also in the end what it's all about today, soil protection and sustainability. So definitely something we support. Last sentence about it. We have a global academy, and our experience is that together with our dealers and together with the farmers, we can make a big difference in having common educational efforts. And just take the example of Ethiopia, but also South Africa, Sudan, where we brought a lot of education about agriculture. And if we melt that together with what is there locally, that is really paying off for everybody in the chain.
Thank you very much, Christian. So the three of you are actually converging on a lot of points. The importance of getting access to finance so that farmers can afford the equipment, digitalization, which is part of the delivery method, training, which all of you seem to be working on in one form or another, and also an overall political or policy framework. Let me go to you, Kamal, because I think you are really right there in the crux of delivering these services to farmers. What additional things need to happen, or what specifications? For example, when we say policy framework, what needs to happen with policy? What needs to happen with access to finance and the private sector that is not happening now?
Right. Thank you very much. Yeah. So for me, what I think is needed to drive access to mechanization access to smallholder farmers has to do with making it easier for smallholder farmers to access these services. So if, for example, there is a new approach to mechanization which conserves the soil and improves yield, that should be driven from the top down, I mean from the government policies. It should be part of the activities the government wants to see. So for example, we are operational in Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Zimbabwe. Yes, and hopefully before the first quarter of this year, we should be operational in Zambia as well. So Mweemba, you should be looking out for us to work together. But what I see happening, especially during this pandemic, is that government wanted a lot of farmers to be operational, but with reduced movement from one point to the other. So how can you do that if you allow farmers to go buy their own seeds, to buy their own fertilizer from different towns, to walk around and look for mechanization service providers? So by the time they get all the things in the value chain needed to get their crops to harvest, they have walked several miles and have approached different areas. But if you use digitalization as a means of getting farmers access to mechanization, just like what the Togolese government did during the pandemic, it's easier to get to drive the attention of farmers from the manual way of accessing digitization, mechanization, to a digital way of accessing digitization. And what that does is that it creates a financial history for these farmers. So the reason why many of these farmers cannot access mechanization services is because they are seen not to have a financial history, even if they need support. But these farmers, mind you, have been doing this for the past decades of in their life as their livelihood. But immediately you start digitizing them, then you can put together, say, 100 farmers in one community who can then afford, afford mechanization equipment that can be given to a service provider through a financing mechanism. But through digitization, you're able to see what transaction transpires between these 100 smallholder farmers and that one service provider. And then the owner, I mean, the dealer, like Claas, can sit in their office and see how much these tractors are making. And then they know when to request for their payment. So if all these value chain activities are done well, you will see that it will be easier. I mean, the only organization that can make this happen is the government. So if policies allow these flows to happen, then direct right away from the farmer to the producer of the mechanization equipment, you can see that there will be a lot of collaboration. So that kind of policy, is what is needed to make.
Thank you, Kamal. I think that's a wonderful, really clear illustration of, because sometimes we say digitalization, it's a big word, but you are really talking about increasing transparency from the farmer to the financial institution to the provider of farming equipment, and also providing tracking so that the farmer begins to have a financial history and begins to have capital in terms of information that they can use to negotiate with other partners. We are unfortunately running out of time. I'm going to give each of you 2 to 3 minutes to say some closing remarks. I want to just let you know there are a few questions in the chat. So let me read the questions so that if you can respond to them as you round up, please do. There's a specific question for Grenda. What methods and strategies are you using to solve the climate change challenges you mentioned? There is a question about why there is slow adoption of new techniques and methods. And also the person has put in the chat a resource that provides some potential answers to that. And then there's a final question about specific measures that are being used to preserve traditional knowledge for soil conservation. How is this knowledge recorded and secured? So I am going to hand over to each of you for closing remarks. 2 to 3 minutes. I will really have to cut you off because we are running out of time. Let me start with Christian, go to Kamal, and end with Grenda. Christian, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. You spotted me as a major risk of overrunning the time. So I will start. I think it was a very good discussion guided by you. And it appears to be clear what needs to be done for Africa and soil protection and sustainable agriculture from my perspective. One thing we have learned today, the high importance of local knowledge and the high importance of using it also for the future. And secondly, that there is no way around mechanization to make agriculture more efficient, and in the end also to be economically wise a sustainable business, because you can do a lot if it's not paying off. If the families cannot make a living out of it, it will never be sustained. And thirdly, I think the framing, the education, the collaboration with dealers, with universities, with the great people of all the countries in Africa is a third pillar which we have to look at, and this includes digitalization. I think we have wrapped all together in this discussion. And just because I saw one question also in the chat about soil protection and soil, and the weight of our machines, I would like to spend 1-2 sentences on that as well. We have been working for the last 20-30 years to get really not the size of the machine down, but the pressure on the soil, which is important. The size is not so important, it's the pressure on the soil and how to protect it. And if you take a super modern machine from Claas, a Lexion, with the, which we sell a lot in South Africa, for instance, but also in other countries, with rubber belts, the soil is perfectly protected and much better than with an old tractor with tires. So innovation matters and education as well. And thanks for your patience and your interest.
Thank you, Christian. Kamal, over to you. Just 2 minutes to close.
Right. Thank you very much, Ka. And I'm very, very happy with the discussions that have gone in that we've had this morning, especially on the fact that all panelists agree to the fact that there should be training of both farmers and service providers. And also, what I would end with is the financial inclusion for smallholder farmers. So once we are able to make smallholder farmers attractive, then it's right away it makes it easier for all actors in the value chain to participate well. And with so many actors on the continent trying to achieve the same goal, I think that they should be looking at financial inclusion as part of their activities in driving mechanization and soil preservation for efficiency, effectiveness, and sustainability in our soil. And I want to just mention one partner that has worked with us in this for a very important. They see financial inclusion to be very important for smallholder farmers, and that is Alliance for Green Revolution Africa. We are working with them across the continent to make sure that the farmers who are the end users of all these activities, all these tractors, digitalization, have access to financial
services
are included in the financial sector, just to make it, like you mentioned, transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kamal. Really great remarks there. Grenda, over to you for the final word from the farmers on the ground.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think before I answer the questions that were directed to me, allow me to thank the GFFA team on behalf of AKTC for at least according us this platform to reach out to many players out there that have been involved in this forum. And also, thank you so much, Ka, for moderating as well. Now, may I answer the question that was directed to me regarding to what we are doing in a way to combat the effects of climate change? Okay. So as AKTC, we are currently offering training that is speaking direct to the effects of climate change, which is one of these training is soil conservation and cultivation, where we are looking at the practices that will improve soil health, and we are also advocating that to the farmers. The other one, we are being involved into a training that is known as professional crop protection application, which is done in collaboration with our partner Bayer, where we are really sensitizing the farmers on chemical handling and also aspects to do with disposal of chemical residues that will at least speak well to the environment. And then the other activities that we are doing, the last on the list is the CAFM project, the climate adopted farming methods, where we are comparing the differences that are into different kinds of soil cultivation, which is reaping, direct seeding, and disking. So in doing this, we are involving farmers at every stage, where we give them the results of whatever we are doing. So the results of reaping, the yield differences, and also the time that was taken, the fuel consumption, and things, other things that are related to that. So at least farmers are able to see that, okay, if I do direct seeding, this is the yield that is coming, and also this is the effect that is there on my soils. Yeah, this is what we are currently doing, and we are really advocating for that. And the farmers, I must mention that they are really enjoying the current project that is ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grenda. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful panelists. This has been a great, very uplifting panel to see all of the amazing work being done on the ground. What is clear is that training, digitalization, equipment, strong policy frameworks that are making sure that farmers have financial inclusion, have access to digitalization, and are able to access both training services, equipment services, and financial services. All of you concur that these are the most important things. You also have stressed that we must start with the historical knowledge that farmers have to build training programs, to build equipment, and so on. We must make sure that we're taking into account the knowledge that is already there. And all of these elements, whether it's the equipment or the training, must be addressing climate change issues which are impacting the fertility of the soil. And we are happy to see innovation at the top end with big companies, and also on the ground with training courses. Thank you very much to each of you. You can go deeper with each of our speakers. We will have a link in the chat. You can go into your chat, click on the link, and go into the deep dive, where you can spend another 30 minutes with each of our speakers to be able to discuss some of your specific questions and points. Thank you so much to all of the panelists, to the GFFA team. This was a wonderful panel, and let's continue to have a very nice economic forum. Thank you.